The key to our new home pressed against my thigh with every step through the overcrowded Westbrook Hotel lot. 6 months of chasing leads, losing bids, and drowning in bureaucracy had finally led here. We'd secured a place of our own. Not the storybook Victoria and Sarah once dreamed of, but a smart 3-bedroom in a top-tier school district. A decision I'd gently steered her toward. Logical, grounded. Inside, the ballroom shimmered. Chandeliers spilled light over designer, gowns and tailored suits, champagne flowing like water. I felt like a misplaced puzzle piece in my off-the-rack jacket, scanning for Sarah. I found her beside a towering spray of orchids, auburn hair sculpted into a clean sweep, draped in a sleek, black dress I didn't recognize. She was engrossed in conversation with Gregory Walsh himself, the CEO, polished, powerful, his smile a little too practiced. He stood too close. His hand casually rested on her bare shoulder. As I moved closer, I caught part of their exchange. "London. Next month," he murmured. "Let's stretch the trip. The client meeting ends Thursday, but I've got us booked through Sunday." Sarah glanced sideways. "Presumptuous, Mr. Walsh." "Greg," he corrected, brushing his thumb in small circles along her shoulder. "Greg. Not Mr. Walsh, Milan." She had said Milan was a leadership retreat. I'd picked her up at the airport, rested, glowing with a tan that hadn't been there before. "Hey," I said, stepping into their space with a forced smile. "Sorry I'm late." Sarah jerked at the sound of my voice, nearly spilling her drink. For a split second, she looked panicked, not pleased. "Mark," she said, tone a touch too high. "You made it. I didn't think—" "You said you'd be here." I cut in, puzzled. "I just mentioned the closing might make me late." Greg's hand slipped from her shoulder, but not before giving it a subtle squeeze. He extended it toward me, firm, almost aggressive. "Ah, the teacher," he said, making the title sound like a hobby. "Sarah said you might be joining." "Might?" I echoed, looking at her. "He wasn't sure about the timing," she said quickly. "With everything going on with the house." "The house," I repeated, flat. "You mean the one we just bought? That house thing?" Greg raised an eyebrow, barely hiding his smirk. "Big step, congrats." He raised his glass. "To new beginnings." Sarah clinked her flute against his, her smile tight, eyes somewhere else. A woman in a backless gown tapped Greg's arm. "The Andersons want a word. Something about Singapore." "Duty calls," he said. "Sarah, we still need to finalize those projections. Tonight," his tone suggested projections meant anything but spreadsheets. "To you," he nodded at me. "Enjoy the evening." He disappeared into the crowd. "You look great," I offered, searching her face. "New dress?" She nodded, eyes scanning the room. "Picked it up last week. Work's been insane." "You've barely been home," I said evenly. "But hey, I've got news. Couldn't wait, we got the house, it's official." I reached for her hand, a flicker of real joy lit her face. "Seriously? It went through?" "Roof repairs covered, and they threw in the washer and dryer." "That's amazing." For a moment we were us again, then her phone buzzed. She looked at the screen and changed. "I need to work the room," she said, stepping back. "The Johnsons are potential clients." Greg again," I said. "What happened to Mr. Walsh? Seems like you two are pretty close." Her eyes narrowed. "He's my boss, Mark. That closeness is how promotions work. You know how much this means." "To us," I corrected. "It's supposed to mean something to us." Her face softened, just a notch. "It does. Let me handle it, okay? We'll celebrate tomorrow, I promise." And just like that, she was gone. I wandered back to the bar. Scotch in hand, I'd been nursing the same pour for nearly an hour, watching her orbit the room while staying clear of mine. "Make it a double," I said, pushing the glass forward. The bartender poured. A tall blonde in a striking red dress slid into the seat beside me. "You're Sarah's fiancé, right?" she asked without introduction. I turned. "And you are?" "Melissa Walsh," she said, offering a manicured hand. Soon-to-be ex-wife of the man your fiancé can't seem to quit. I nearly choked. Ah, nice to meet you. She smiled, bitter and elegant. Don't look so shocked. Everyone knows we're divorcing, apparently everyone but you. Her look was impeccable. Designer dress, flawless makeup, diamond studs. That could pay off my car. But something in her eyes was cracked. I'm sorry about your marriage, I offered. She laughed coldly. Don't be. 15 years was long enough. The last 3 were just performance art. She raised her martini. So how's engaged bliss treating you? I hesitated. We just bought a house. Congratulations. Her gaze followed mine, to where Sarah and Greg stood laughing. Advice? Check the deed. Make sure your name's on it. A chill slid down my spine. What does that mean? Melissa stared at me, head tilted. You really don't know, do you? Before I could press, a commotion near the entrance cut through the crowd. A disheveled man argued with security, voice raised. I have every right to be here. I'm a Meridian investor. I recognized him, Daniel Foster. Aggressive shareholder. Known loudmouth. Greg moved in like a shark. Dan, this isn't the place. Don't Dan me, Foster snapped. That SEC filing vanished. How convenient, right before the quarterly review. The room froze. You're drunk, Greg said coolly. Let security drive you home. We'll talk Monday. Talk about what? Foster barked. Peterson, the cooked numbers, or maybe how you've been screwing half the board to keep them quiet. Gasps scattered like glass breaking. I turned to Sarah. She was frozen, pale, motionless. Enough, Greg barked. Security closed in. This isn't over, Walsh, Foster warned as they dragged him out. The board will know. Silence fractured into whispers. Greg raised his hands, smooth as ever. Apologies, everyone. Dan's under strain. Now let's toast another record quarter for Meridian. Applause followed. The band kicked back in. Beside me, Melissa drained her glass. And that is why I'm taking him for everything he's worth. I barely heard her. Sarah wasn't laughing with the others. She was texting furiously, tense. Greg caught her eye and gave a subtle nod toward a hallway. She nodded back, barely. She slipped away. Excuse me, I muttered, standing. I followed at a distance. Down a corridor lined with meeting rooms, I spotted light beneath a cracked door. Voices carried. Greg, calm, commanding. Sarah, tight, nervous. You can't just ignore it, Greg. If Foster goes to the board, he won't. He's unstable. No one listens to him. But the SEC, it's handled. You trust me? Don't. You? I reached the door and looked in. They stood inches apart in a conference room. Greg's hand cradled her cheek. His thumb brushed her lip. I trust you, she whispered. But this is my career too. If the Peterson data was accurate, you signed off, you stand by it, understand? His voice left no room for doubt. Now let's get back before too late, I said, stepping inside. They jumped apart. Mark, Sarah breathed, eyes wide. This isn't what it looks like, I finished, voice level. Strange. That's exactly what it looks like. Greg straightened his tie, expression unreadable. Your fiancée was handling a confidential matter, and her boss's hand on her face is standard procedure. Silence. Sarah looked like she might crumble. I didn't blink. Not anymore. Handle me? I laughed, flat and cold. Like I'm a situation to be managed? Mark, please. Sarah stepped forward, voice cracking. That's not what I meant. I met Melissa, by the way, I said casually, never taking my eyes off her. Sharp woman. Seems unusually informed about Meridian and about you. Sarah's face tensed. Can we talk in private? Private like this cozy little office? Or private like that Milan trip that wasn't a women's leadership retreat? Greg stepped between us, jaw tight. You've made your point. Take this domestic meltdown elsewhere. I ignored him, looked only at her. Just answer me. Are you sleeping with him? She didn't speak, didn't need to. The silence screamed. How long? I asked, voice level, almost gentle. Sarah swallowed. 3 months. 3 months. While we were house hunting? Planning a wedding? I took a breath. Is that why you kept postponing? Too busy screwing your way up the org chart? Her hand cracked across my face before I saw it coming. Sharp. Loud. You don't get to talk to me like that. She whispered, stunned by her own reaction. I touched the sting on my cheek. And you don't get to pretend I don't exist when it suits you, then cry foul when I push back. Greg moved to intervene. That's enough. You need to leave. Now. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the house key, and placed it on the conference table with a deliberate click. I signed the closing papers this morning. Congratulations. The dream house is all yours now. Enjoy it with your boss. Sarah's face broke. Mark, wait. But I was already walking away. Out the office, past the party crowd, where music played and laughter floated like none of this had happened. As I neared the exit, a hand caught my arm. Melissa Walsh. Her face was unreadable, but her voice was soft. If you're leaving, take this. She slipped a business card into my hand. My attorney. You'll need one. I stared at her. Why are you helping me? Her smile was tired, sad. Because I've seen this movie before, and I hate sequels. She disappeared back into the party. I pocketed the card and stepped into the night air, the cold hitting my skin like a slap. I didn't look back. The next week, I crashed at my buddy Jason's place and called a college friend, a real estate lawyer. Since both names were on the mortgage but I'd signed the closing papers alone, the property sat in legal purgatory. Either Sarah would qualify solo, or we'd sell it before ever moving in. She called, texted, her tone shifting from self-righteous to desperate. By day 3, I blocked her. Then she ambushed me outside the school where I taught. I didn't let her inside. 2 minutes, I said. That's all you get. She looked wrecked, still beautiful, but worn thin by guilt and sleepless nights. I've been trying to reach you, she started. What happened at the party is done, I cut in. Here's how this works. You buy out my share of the down payment by Friday, or we sell. Her breath caught. I'm not here to talk about the house, I'm here to talk about us. There is no us, I said simply. You made that choice. You and Greg. It wasn't like that, she pleaded. It got out of hand. It was stupid. Work pressure. 3 months, I said. That's not a mistake, that's a strategy. She flinched. I deserve that, she whispered. But what we had, 4 years, that has to mean something. It did, until you looked through me at that party. Your time's up, Sarah. Let me know by Friday. She grabbed the door. Mark, despite everything, I still love you. I didn't hesitate. No. You love what I represented. The fallback plan. The safe one. I'm not that guy anymore. I shut the door and went back to prepping for class. That night she emailed. She'd buy me out. 3 days later, I handed over my rights to the house, took the check, and walked away from the future we'd built on lies. I rented a 1-bedroom across town, labeled the rest of the money New Beginning in my banking app. Packing. My life took under 3 hours. 4 years of memories, 10 boxes, 3 pieces of furniture. Sarah wasn't home. She left a letter on the counter. I left the ring in its box, a $9,000 promise that never meant a thing. Clean break, Jason said, helping me move. Best way. Already done, I replied. Whatever was left switched off that night. I'm not going back. 3 weeks later, I got a call from a strange number. Mark Donovan? Yes. This is Agent Vivian Hart, FBI. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Meridian Financial. My gut twisted. I don't work there. No, but your fiancé did. Or rather, used to. Used to. She resigned last week. I assumed you knew. We're no longer in contact, I said. I haven't spoken to her recently. I understand. This is sensitive. Meridian is under federal investigation, fraud, falsified financials, wire fraud. Greg Walsh is one of the key targets. Sarah Collins is cooperating in exchange for immunity. I laughed once. No humor in it. Let me guess. She didn't know anything until just recently. I can't confirm details, but your eyewitness account from that night, particularly regarding Daniel Foster, could help our case. I recounted what I'd seen and heard at the party. Did she ever talk about the Peterson deal? Only that it was eating her weekends. What about Walsh? Did she mention their relationship? You mean, did I know they were sleeping together? No, not until that night. Another pause. Would you be willing to provide a formal statement? I hesitated. Part of me wanted it all behind me, but another part knew what men like Greg did when left unchecked. I'll do it, I said. Set it up. I just hung up when the doorbell rang. Melissa Walsh. How did you find me? She gave a tight smile. I have resources. May I come in? I let her. She looked around my bare apartment, then sat. Here's the deal. Greg's about to be indicted. Sarah's flipping on him to save herself. Classic. I know. The FBI called. Do you know what they don't? She asked, leaning forward. I stayed quiet. Greg called me last night, begging me to get my father, who's on Meridian's board, to intervene. Like I'd help him after what he did. Same playbook, Mark. Used me to climb, cheated, then lined up the next pawn, Sarah. Her tone turned acidic. And guess what? He's already moved on. His new assistant is next. I stared at her. Why tell me this? Because I want to know what you're going to tell the FBI. Are you going to help Sarah play the victim card? Or are you going to tell the truth, that she wasn't some innocent intern but a full partner in both the affair and the cover-up? I'll tell the truth, I said, whatever it costs either of them. Good. She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. These might help. 6 months' worth of emails between Greg and Sarah. My attorney had pulled them during discovery for the divorce. I hesitated before opening them. What's in them? I asked. Correspondence tied to the Peterson acquisition, she said. Business-related, but I suggest you read them before deciding what to tell the FBI about your ex-fiancé's involvement. She set the envelope on my coffee table, rose with the elegance of someone used to exits, and turned at the doorway. One more thing, she added. Sarah always knew about me. Greg never lied about being married. Whatever narrative she's telling herself or you, just keep that in mind. Then she was gone. I stared at the envelope for a long time before I finally tore it open and started reading. The contents were damning. Sarah hadn't merely been aware of the fraudulent projections tied to the Peterson deal. She had actively helped fabricate them. She'd suggested ways to tweak forecasts, to mask the financial shortcomings, to make the acquisition more attractive to potential investors. Worse still, buried between the spreadsheets and business language were personal messages that laid bare the truth about their affair. It hadn't started 3 months ago, as Sarah claimed. In one email from 5 months prior, she wrote, Milan was perfect. Can't wait for the next conference. 5 months. While I was picking out rings. While I was touring homes. While I was mapping out the life I thought we were building. When Agent Hart called again the next morning, I gave her everything. What I'd seen at the Westbrook, what Sarah had confessed, what Melissa had shown me. I didn't mention the emails, didn't want to pull Melissa into the crossfire, but I made it clear. Sarah hadn't just been complicit in the fraud. She had helped engineer it. And she hadn't been dragged into an affair. She had walked in, eyes wide open. Thank you for your candor, Mr. Donovan, Agent Hart said. This will be useful. Half a year passed. My life had settled into something like stability. A better apartment, a new path. I'd enrolled in a master's program for educational leadership. A few dates here and there. Nothing serious, but enough to remind myself that life moves forward, even when it breaks. The federal case against Meridian exploded. Gregory Walsh and 2 other executives were indicted. Their trials were set for the following year. Sarah vanished from my life. Jason, a mutual acquaintance, told me she'd moved back to Ohio. The house we'd almost bought had gone into short sale, just another casualty in the wake of the corporate collapse. Then, one quiet evening as I was grading papers, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. Ohio area code. I nearly let it go to voicemail. Almost. Hello? Mark, it's Sarah. Her voice hit me like static from an old record. Familiar, dissonant, misplaced. What do you want? I kept my tone neutral. I'm in town. Depositions. A pause. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to talk. 15 minutes. Every instinct told me to hang up, but curiosity has its own gravity. I agreed to meet her at a campus coffee shop. Neutral ground. Public. Safe. She was already there when I arrived. Corner table. 2 cups. She looked diminished. Thinner. Hair. Pulled back. No makeup, no heels, just jeans and a sweater. I ordered your usual, she said. Black coffee, 1 sugar. I nodded but didn't drink. You said you needed to talk. She exhaled. I'm testifying against Greg. Next month. The prosecutor says my testimony could make the case. Congrats on your immunity deal, I said, voice flat. She winced. I deserve that. Her gaze dropped to the cup in front of her. But there's something you should know. The FBI has the emails between me and Greg. I'm aware. Agent Hart mentioned them. She nodded slowly. Then you know I was involved from the start, that I helped manipulate the numbers. I do. What you don't know is why. Does it matter? I kept my voice steady. The why doesn't change the damage. It matters to me. She looked up at last. When Greg took over, he made it clear. My future at Meridian depended on being a team player. Peterson was his pet project. When the numbers didn't match his vision, he pressured me to adjust them. I resisted at first, but then he started talking about restructuring, redundancies, my job on the line. Her hands were clenched around her cup. I'd worked so hard to get where I was, the idea of losing it all. So you altered the data? Yes. It began with small tweaks, just enough to justify the optimism. But once the acquisition picked up momentum, the lies grew. She swallowed. When I finally tried to pull back, Greg reminded me that my name was on everything, that I was already implicated. And that's when the affair began. I didn't ask it kindly. She closed her eyes for a second. Yes. That's when things shifted. When he realized he could use every angle of me. You didn't look particularly reluctant at the Westbrook, I said. Didn't look like a hostage. By then I'd convinced myself I was choosing it, that it was strategic. Her voice trembled. You tell yourself lies to survive, the ones you're living. I leaned back, studying her. What do you want from me, Sarah? Forgiveness? No, she said quickly. Just the truth. I thought you deserved that. The truth? I echoed. Like when you said the affair had only lasted 3 months, when the emails show it was at least 5. Her face drained. Of color. You've read them? Melissa Walsh gave me a copy. I watched her face crumple. Don't lie again, Sarah. You made your choices. So did I. And I'm done. She nodded, blinking fast. I know. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I stood, untouched coffee still on the table. Mark, she said, as I turned to leave. Were you ever going to come back? After, that night? Try to fix things? I paused. Considered. No, I said. The moment I saw you with him, I knew exactly who you were. And that wasn't someone I wanted to share a life with. 1 year to the day after the Westbrook party, I found myself at another corporate event. This time, I was someone's +1 Emma, a fellow teacher, friend, and maybe something more, had invited me to accompany her to her husband's company gala. Her ex-husband had backed out at the last minute. You're saving me, she'd said with a smile. I can't face that crowd alone. Glad to help. And I meant it. Emma and I had formed a quiet friendship, born from shared work, shared scars, She'd gone through a divorce 3 years earlier and understood what it meant to rebuild from splinters. The event wasn't glamorous. No chandeliers, no whispered affairs, just rented space, buffet food, soft music. But it felt different. People asked about my students, my grad work. They saw me, not as a tag-along, but as someone real. "You clean up well, Professor," Emma teased, settling next to me. "That tie suits you," I smiled. "You're not so bad yourself." She wore a simple green dress, hair tucked behind one ear. At 42, she carried life in her eyes, laugh lines and quiet strength. We'd been tiptoeing around something unspoken, neither of us had named. "Dose penny for your thoughts," she asked, just reflecting. "Tonight marks a year since the night I found out my fiancé was sleeping with her boss." Emma's brows rose. "That's a hell of an anniversary. Drink to survival?" "No," I said. "To new directions." She raised her glass. "To the detours that matter." Later, she led me to the dance floor. "So, Professor Donovan, did they teach dancing in your grad program?" "Might have covered it under historical reenactment," I said, offering my hand. We moved easily. No missteps. At one point I caught my reflection in a mirror, smiling, steady, whole. "You know," she said, "when we first started talking, you looked like someone carrying a weight that didn't belong to him." I met her gaze. "And now?" "Now you look like someone who finally put it down." We left the venue as the night cooled. She shivered, and I offered my jacket. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "Would have been lonely alone." "Thank you for inviting me. It meant more than I expected." She smiled. "Because of Sarah?" I considered. "Partly, but mostly because I realized something." "What's that?" "That I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." She looked at me for a long moment. "Want to get breakfast tomorrow? There's a place near the farmer's market with waffles that change lives." "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. Driving home, I thought of everything that had come apart and everything that had come after. No regrets. Not about walking away from the lie I almost lived. Not about the detour that brought me here. Sarah had chosen her path. I had chosen mine. The past was behind me now, still part of the story, but no longer the ending. And ahead, finally, something that felt like peace.